What's going on, America? This is Kevin at Kevin's Corner. It's a chilly day here in Ohio. Brr. Anyway, I had a thought. Sometimes, I try to make some sense out of nonsense. And what doesn't make sense to me is that in our society today, where we are hypersensitive when it comes down to racism, we have, of course, the Democrats running around pushing racism, the race narrative, doing that for political reasons, doing that for division of our country, doing that for, of course, identity politics so that they could really isolate their voter base based off of inflated propaganda and inflated narratives, basically. But there is a reality when it comes to certain types of racism and discrimination. I realized that I am a double minority. Matter of fact, any black Republican or conservative is a double minority. Not only are we black, but being a Republican or being a conservative. Because, see, I don't even walk around and say, you know what, I'm a Republican. But I am a conservative, which usually aligns me up with the Republican views. And after seeing the display and the behavior and the reaction of the Democratic Party, I can't see myself ever voting that way ever again. In fact, I question the sanity, the logic, all of that of someone who can watch the Democratic Party behave after this last election and say, you know what, I want to be associated with that. But nonetheless, because they have done such a wonderful job down throughout the years of creating their brand, which is we focus on social issues and focus on victimhood. Therefore, you should stick with us because we care about the people. Since they've done such a wonderful job, you still have a large voter base who, for whatever reason, will defy all logic, all reasoning, all practicality, and still vote Democrat. And here's what gets me. When it comes to discrimination and racism, I guarantee you that if I went and talked to the average black guy, black woman, they won't sit back and say, you know what? By me walking around, I've been attacked by 5 white people today. Or I've been attacked by 7 or 8 police officers today, just for being black. I've been called racial names. And I'm not talking about just once in your lifetime. Hey, have you ever been called a racial slur? Oh, yeah, I was down in Alabama one time and back in 84 and some guy called me a name. I'm talking about anywhere you go in America. Being under attack as a black person, I don't know how many people can honestly testify to that. And I'm talking being under attack simply because you're black. But what I do find is that being a conservative black person, I'm attacked more with racial slurs and discrimination than just if I was a regular Democratic black man. And that's crazy because for people to yell that racism is such a problem in our society, it's ironic that they use racial slurs on black people to try to keep them in line with the black or the Democratic plantation. And what gets me is I read some of the comments, and, it's not many. A lot of the people who view my videos are very supportive, and they think practically, and they think logically, and they're respectful. But what cracks me up is when some black people get on my timeline, and they use racial slurs that I have never been called by a white person, ever. I've never been called a coon by a white person. Never been called a sellout. Never been called an Uncle Tom. Never been called the N-word. No, I take that back. One time, many years ago. But nonetheless, I have been called all of those names rapid fire. I'm talking not by white people who they claim are so racist and in our society have created such discrimination and aggression towards the black man. And yet black people are the most aggressive towards black conservatives, especially outspoken black conservatives. So there are a lot of black conservatives out there, but they keep it on the down low. They're like Nicodemus in the Bible, who came to Jesus by night because he didn't want the rest of the Pharisees and Sadducees to know he was down with the king. But when you become an outspoken black conservative, the attack is rampant, mostly by blacks. Unfortunately, the Democratic Party has left that up to other black people to keep free-thinking black conservatives in line. So it's like, you know what? We're not going to call you those names. We're not going to shame you. We're going to set it up so that the black community who thinks that we have their back, have their best interests, going to make sure that they receive the minimum amount of social care and social resources, but never let them quite get ahead and never really address the issues in their city. Because if we really took care of all their problems, then they would no longer feel like they're oppressed and feel like they're the victims. So we have to keep them struggling just a little bit, because at the end of the day, when it comes election time, we have to come out and say, look at your neighborhoods, look at your schools, look at your infrastructure, look at all of that. And you're so oppressed, nobody wants to help you, but we're here to help you. But the irony of it all is that most of those cities or areas are ran by Democrats. So who are they blaming? That's what I don't understand. Don't point the finger, point the thumb. And then when you get a free-thinking black person who says, wait a minute, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Let's think outside the blocks. Let's get rid of the emotion and the rhetoric that's being pushed, and let's focus on policies and issues and some logic when it comes down to our voting policies. And all of a sudden, you become attacked, not just because your policies and your beliefs, but I'm attacked by a lot of blacks because they say, you done got off the plantation, basically. Get back over here on this plantation. And they try to do it by calling you racial names. If you ever want a good chuckle, read down some of my timelines, some of my older videos, things like that. You will see some heinous comments by black people. I've never had a white person get on my timeline and call me racial slurs, but plenty black people do it. And that's pretty ironic to me, because they're the first ones to yell racism, discrimination. And so it puts the black person that is a conservative in a double minority category. It's crazy. And one would think, like, how in the world did the black community get to the point where they are trusting, in my opinion, I use this word, trusting their enslavers? The sad part about it is you have to be broken mentally before you can then be built up to develop that type of codependency and trust for someone who's taking advantage of you and like it. Not even to realize that you've been taken advantage of. Willfully just walk down to the polls and punch Democrat regardless. Don't leverage the vote. Don't ask, what are you going to do, and hold people accountable. Just simply assume that as a black person, we are supposed to vote Democrat. So how do you get to this point? People ask me, Kevin, how do you deal with the black community? Why won't they listen? What can I do to get across to them? And, some of them, I hate to tell you, they're gone. They have jumped both feet into the Democratic doctrine. However, a lot of them will respond to people who they're close to because they may trust them. They may trust their opinion, but you got to take the emotions out of it. You can't let them drag you into emotional conversation and argument. Thirdly, you can't let them come in with, I'm a victim. And see, what the Democratic Party has done brilliantly is told minority groups that you are victims because they have no policies. They have to say you're a victim. And as soon as you start looking at policies, they go, no, don't look up there. Look right here. You are a victim. And so a lot of times black people, when a political discussion begins, if they're not in the position of the victim during that discussion, or in the political or the policies that you're discussing, then immediately they shut it down. I don't want to hear it. And then they also have a tendency to put up a wall as soon as they feel a policy is coming from the Republicans, regardless of how logical or practical the policy may be. Regardless if the policy is helping them, their families, their communities. Look at the all-out attacks by many black people on Donald Trump. And I said to myself, boy, have they really been following some of the facts and not the fake news, not the rhetoric, not the false narratives that are being pushed? Because when you look at black unemployment that is at an all-time low, lower than it's ever been since they've been documenting it. When you look at the benefits from the tax reform, and you got companies coming back. Apple just announced something major. They're coming back to America. They told Obama they would never, ever come back to America. And yet here they are. Then they're about to drop billions of dollars back into our economy, bringing that money from overseas back over here to the U.S., providing more jobs and building more factories. When you look at some of the car plants that are coming back from Mexico here, I know a whole heap of black people that work for GM and all of those other plants, Ford and all of these plants. They make cars and they rely on those salaries that bounced and went somewhere else. And now they're bringing it back. When you look at school choice, where black people are constantly talking about our school system suck. They keeping us here in this community, and they know these school systems are garbage, and they ain't doing nothing about them. And then you open up school choice and say, look, you don't have to be confined to that school. You can go somewhere else. When you look at things like that, and still you will have black people say, you know what? I don't want to look at those things and buy into it and invest some time to study that, to understand why that makes sense. I'd rather focus on what CNN and MSNBC is telling me about Donald Trump calling countries crap holes. I'd rather focus on some statues that mean nothing to me and nothing to the average American and act as if that is the source of modern day discrimination and racism. Therefore, let me invest my time to run around, tear that down as if that is going to eliminate racism. I'd rather waste my time getting mad that Donald Trump spoke ill about some knucklehead rich football players that are taking knees during the national anthem when they could have picked any other time to do that, but yet they want to disrespect the flag and feel like there will be no backlash over it. I'd rather take my time and paint him as a racist because he made a comment not about them being black, but about the fact that they're protesting something that unites every American together. Those are the things that the media will get black people and some Americans that aren't black to focus on and act as if these topics trump all of the major political and policy reform that Trump is doing. Because you know what? They don't want him to be successful. If he's successful, we're all successful. Unfortunately, because they are so used to being in power, so used to having everybody else in the country rely on the wisdom of the Democratic and the Republican Party. I'm throwing them in there too, because they're all politicians. They went to school to do that stuff. A lot of them are lawyers and stuff, and they know how to speak with the King's English. When they get up to do their speeches, yes, I do say, when I graduated from Harvard University, I decided to, and they get up and they know how to speak correctly, and Trump gets up and he says crazy, wild stuff sometimes because he's not worried about how politically correct he sounds. He keeps it 100% real. And yet people say, you know, I'd rather trust these slick talkers who never get anything done, who never follow through with their promises, versus a guy who's crass, who sometimes could come across as rude, too direct, misunderstood, but very, very productive. I'd rather trust the people with a proven failed track record than somebody that has not only been proven in the secular world, but is also bringing those same type of accomplishments into the presidency. I'd rather trust the failures. I'd rather continue doing the same thing over and over again and hoping for different results than to try something new and see new results, but yet act as if I don't see it. See, so it doesn't make any practical sense. I'd rather get upset about Donald Trump said some things in Charlottesville. He said that there were good people and bad people marching, and he didn't condemn the Nazis right away, and not even know all of the facts and details about that. Y'all were duped. I just talked to a couple black people, and the first thing they want to do is bring up Charlottesville. Yeah, man, what about Charlottesville? I'm like, what about Charlottesville? He said some things. He basically condoned the Ku Klux Klan and the white supremacists. And I said, really? So by pointing out that both sides had a play, they played a part in all of that taking place, that is somehow indirectly supporting the Ku Klux Klan and the white supremacists, when yet the media, who said that Antifa was a peaceful protest group, which now they've walked that back, these people came down here with helmets, bats, homemade blowtorches, all of that was let in by the police without a permit to even protest, mask on. You know what they coming for. They ain't coming to shake hands and negotiate. They're coming for violence. And so when you see that, and Trump saw that, and any practical person saw it, but yet the media set it up as it was peaceful, and all of a sudden these Nazis just attacked these peaceful demonstrators and protesters. When that didn't happen, and they hide stuff like the black guy who was down there in the crowd, and he was simply talking about freedom of speech. Whether you a Nazi, KKK believer, or what garbage is that is, you have the freedom to say what you feel. And he was down there, and guess what? He was attacked by Antifa. And they didn't report that. I didn't see CNN sticking a mic in his face saying, you as a black man, how do you feel being attacked by a quote unquote peaceful protest group that involved other black people? They didn't do that. No, what they did is they painted it as if everybody was walking and holding hands saying, we shall overcome. Oh God, what's happening? Oh, why are they doing this to us? No, that's not what happened. See, so people, unfortunately, they are not hip to the magic of the Democratic Party and the magic of the fake liberal news media, meaning they create illusions. They set up scenarios. If you are the news network, if you're the entertainment, if you're the person who's able to get the information out to the masses, however you set that information up is how the people will perceive it. And because people don't research it deeply themselves, they just take your word for it. And if you don't understand propaganda, that is what happens when a political group wants to convince a whole bunch of people of a fake narrative. They set it up and stage it, and they throw out information that is biased and is completely designed to manipulate your mind. Thus, that's what makes a lot of black people run around saying Trump's not only a racist, in spite of all of the stuff that he has done with and for black people that CNN, MSNBC never reports. But if you do your research, you'll see that. But in spite of all of that, you got him running around saying Trump's a racist, in spite of the fact you never heard of any of this stuff prior to him running against the Democrats. Well, in spite of the fact that most black people before he ran loved him, putting him all in rap songs. I got bars, I got money like Trump, I got all of that crap that they was doing. Now all of a sudden they hate the man and saying he's a racist. And that is a big distraction so that they don't see the progress in the policies. And as an added bonus, the Democrats has also said, listen here, already convinced, already just automatic voting black people. If you get wind of any black person who's a conservative and supported Trump, you have a duty to the Democratic Party to go out and attack them, shame them, try to bully them back into the Democratic plantation. And so I'm proud to be a double minority, to be honest with you. I wear it as a badge of honor. It shows that black people who are conservatives have the ability to be eagle-eyed. We can see through stuff. We can see through all the garbage, the rhetoric, the manipulation of the media, and how they are in cahoots with the Democratic Party. all of that stuff. We see through it. And it's a certain way of thinking. I'm proud. I'm going, hey, maybe I got a couple noodles up top. That's what I think. So I'm kind of proud of it. I laugh at all those comments, and then I hit them with nothing but logic. I challenge them to debates. Yeah, man, you a sellout. Well, debate me. Let's talk about it. What's up? I can beat you with my mouthpiece, and if you get too crazy, I still knock you out too, because I got hands. Anyway, God bless you. You've been listening to Kevin at Kevin's Corner. Double minority black people. If you a double minority, please leave something in the bottom. If you're a black person who've suffered from persecution and suffered from discrimination and racial slurs based on you being a Republican or a conservative black person, we have a right to speak out. I don't want to be silenced, okay? My feelings is hurt. I'm so glad we're not snowflakes. Whew. Anyway, thank you for listening. If you like this video, click like, share this video, and we will see you next time in Kevin's Corner. If you want to donate to Kevin's Corner, there is a link in the bottom. I'd greatly appreciate it. God bless you, and we will see you next time. Hold on, my brothers and sisters. God bless you. All right, take care.